You've been sensing it for a while now, weeks, maybe even months. That quiet change in the way she looks at you, the way she speaks, the way she reacts to the things you say as if they barely register. You tried to brush it off. You told yourself you were imagining things. You reassured yourself that relationships go through rough patches, that this is normal, that it will pass. But somewhere deep inside, in that place you avoid sitting with for too long, you already know the truth. Something is different. And today, that feeling is about to come into focus because respect can't be faked. It doesn't hide for long. And when it disappears, when a woman loses respect for you, it leaves traces, clear ones. They show up in her words, her behavior, and the way she treats your presence in her life. If you've been feeling brushed aside, if you've been feeling diminished, if certain moments have made your chest tighten even though you couldn't explain why, this is for you. What you're about to hear will either validate what you've been avoiding or open your eyes to something you hadn't fully seen yet. Either way, the truth you've been carrying is about to rise to the surface. And if something in you is already reacting, if that uneasy recognition is starting to stir, stay with me. Because the first sign is the one most men overlook. It creeps in slowly, almost invisibly. By the time you realize it's there, the damage has already taken root. And once you see it clearly, everything else starts to connect. Sign 1. She dismisses your opinions as if they don't matter. You've lived this more times than you care to admit. You share your thoughts about a choice, a plan, an idea, and she waves it away without hesitation. Not angrily, not with debate, just with a kind of empty indifference, as if what you said wasn't even worth acknowledging. Maybe you suggest a place to eat and she immediately picks something else without discussion. Maybe you start explaining how you feel about something important and she shifts the topic before you're done. Maybe you offer advice and she ignores it completely, doing the opposite without a word. This isn't about disagreement. Disagreement is healthy. Disagreement means she respects you enough to engage, even if she doesn't agree. Dismissal is different. Dismissal happens when she no longer sees you as an equal voice, when your words carry no weight, when your perspective has faded into background noise she no longer bothers to listen to. And what makes this hurt the most is that you remember when it wasn't like this. You remember when she asked what you thought, when she leaned in, when your opinion mattered to her, when she looked at you with interest and respect, genuinely wanting to understand how you saw the world. But something shifted. Now, when you speak, there's a dull look in her eyes, a faint impatience, a quiet signal that says, "I'm just waiting for you to finish." She isn't listening anymore. She's tolerating you. When a woman respects you, she doesn't have to agree with everything you say, but she listens, she considers, she engages. She treats your perspective as valuable even when it challenges hers. When respect disappears, your voice becomes optional, your input becomes irrelevant, and you feel it every time you try to offer something meaningful. This is where it starts. Because once she stops valuing what you think, everything else begins to fall apart. And the second sign grows directly out of this one. It's about how she treats you when there's an audience. If you've ever felt uncomfortable or embarrassed by the way she speaks to you around other people, friends, family, anyone, then this next part is going to hit close. Because respect isn't only private, it's also public. It's about how she presents you to the world. Sign 2, she belittles you in front of others. You're sitting in a group, maybe with your friends, maybe hers, maybe family. You say something, tell a story, make a comment, and before anyone else responds, she cuts in. Not to support you, not to add to what you said, but to correct you, mock you, or turn it into a joke at your expense. People laugh, she laughs too, and inside, something tightens. You smile, you shrug it off. You tell yourself it's harmless, just teasing, just your dynamic. But it doesn't feel light, it feels degrading. And the worst part? She either doesn't notice or she notices and doesn't care. When a woman respects you, she protects your image in public. She doesn't turn your flaws into entertainment. She doesn't undermine you to get laughs. She doesn't share your insecurities or mistakes without your consent. Because respect means preserving someone's dignity, especially in front of others. But when respect is gone, the opposite shows up. She uses your weaknesses as material. She tells stories you'd rather keep private. She criticizes you openly, casually, like it's nothing. She turns you into the punchline in situations where you should be her partner, not her target. And if you say something, she calls it a joke. She says you're too sensitive. She accuses you of not being able to handle teasing. But here's the reality. Teasing between two people who respect each other has limits. It never slips into cruelty. It never feels like a blade hidden behind a smile. It never leaves you feeling smaller afterward. If she regularly makes you look foolish in front of others, if she chips away at you publicly while acting like it's harmless, that isn't love. That isn't partnership. That's disrespect disguised as humor. And it's one of the clearest indicators that she no longer sees you as someone worth defending. But what happens in public is only part of the picture. What happens behind closed doors can be even more revealing. And the third sign shows up when no one else is around, in the quiet, everyday moments, in the way she speaks when it's just the two of you. If you've noticed that her tone with you is different from how she speaks to everyone else, and not in a good way, you need to pay attention. Because tone tells the truth, words try to hide. Sign 3. Her tone toward you is cold, sharp, or condescending. Listen closely to how she talks to you when you're alone, not the content, how it sounds, the edge, the impatience, the chill that wasn't there before. You ask a simple question and her answer is clipped. You try to start a conversation and she sighs first. You make a small mistake, something human, and instead of understanding, you get a response that cuts, as if you're a burden, as if your presence alone is draining her. What makes this confusing is that she isn't like this with everyone. With friends, she's warm. With family, she's patient. At work or with strangers, she's polite, even kind. But with you, the one who should matter most, her voice hardens, her words shorten, her energy turns cold. This is what happens when respect erodes. She stops caring about how her tone affects you. She stops softening her irritation. She stops filtering herself. And gradually, the woman who once spoke to you with warmth begins speaking to you like you're beneath her. When a woman respects a man, even during conflict, there's still care in how she communicates. She doesn't talk to him with contempt. She doesn't use that patronizing tone that makes him feel small or inferior. But when respect is gone, every interaction feels tense. Every request feels like a burden. Every conversation leaves you feeling criticized, drained, or inadequate. If you've been telling yourself it's just stress, just her personality, just a phase, you need to stop. Tone reflects truth. And when warmth turns to coldness, when kindness turns to condescension, respect has already left the relationship. And tone is only the surface. Beneath it, something even more damaging is happening. Something that affects not just how she talks to you, but whether she considers you at all. The fourth sign shows up in plans, choices, and the future she's creating. And if she's making moves without you, if you're hearing about decisions after they've already been made, you need to understand what that says. Sign 4. She makes major decisions without consulting you. You find out after the fact. She's already made weekend plans. She's already committed. She's already decided something important, and you weren't part of it. Not because she forgot, not because it simply slipped her mind, but because your input never crossed her thoughts. Maybe she booked a trip without checking if you were free. Maybe she made a financial choice that impacts both of you without a single conversation. Maybe she's mapping out her future, her career, her next moves, her life, and you're not part of that picture at all. You're expected to adapt to decisions that were already made. This is a deep fracture in partnership because when two people truly respect each other, they function as a unit. They talk things through. They weigh each other's needs, time, and perspective before making choices that affect both lives. Even when one person ultimately decides, the other is included, consulted, respected. Their voice matters. But when a woman loses respect for you, you're removed from that process. You're no longer included. You're informed. You become an afterthought instead of a partner. And the message couldn't be clearer. Your presence has become optional. Your opinion is no longer required. The relationship is no longer balanced. And over time, this does something to you. It makes you feel unseen. It makes you question your place. It makes you wonder if you matter at all. Because how could you, if she's building her life without considering you? When respect exists, inclusion happens naturally. She doesn't have to remind herself to think about you. You're already part of how she imagines her future. But when respect disappears, you're quietly erased. You become a side character in a story where you thought you were a co-author. If you've been feeling excluded, blindsided by decisions, or constantly catching up to plans you never knew about, this isn't carelessness. It's disrespect showing you exactly where you stand. And it leads directly into the next sign, one most men don't fully understand until the damage is done. It's about boundaries, not the ones she sets, but the ones she ignores. If she's been crossing your limits, dismissing your needs, or treating your boundaries like inconveniences she can override, then the fifth sign will explain everything, and it may be the most painful of all. Sign 5. She repeatedly violates your boundaries. You've told her what you need. You've clearly communicated your limits. You've explained what hurts, what makes you uncomfortable, what crosses a line. She heard you. She acknowledged it. Maybe she even apologized, and then she did it again, and again, and again. Sometimes it's subtle. Maybe she shares private details about your relationship with her friends after you asked her not to. Maybe she pressures you into situations you've clearly said you're not okay with. Maybe she brings up sensitive topics in front of people you explicitly asked her to keep out of it. Or maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe she disrespects your time, your space, your emotional capacity. Maybe she flirts in ways that leave you uneasy, and when you speak up, she labels you insecure. Maybe she pushes against your values, then shames you for having them. When a woman respects you, your boundaries matter. She doesn't have to fully understand every one of them. She doesn't have to agree with them, but she honors them. Because respecting boundaries is how someone shows they care. It's how they demonstrate that your comfort, your peace, your emotional safety are worth protecting. But when respect is gone, your boundaries become annoyances, obstacles, things she resents. She crosses them casually, repeatedly, and then acts confused when you're hurt. Or worse, she turns it back on you. She makes you feel wrong for having limits at all. This is one of the most damaging forms of disrespect because it distorts your sense of reality. It makes you question yourself. It makes you wonder if you're asking for too much, if you're being unreasonable, controlling, overly sensitive. And slowly you start to shrink. You stop reinforcing your boundaries because you're exhausted. You stop protecting yourself because it feels pointless. But here's the truth. Your boundaries are not optional. They are not suggestions. They are the structure of how you deserve to be treated, and anyone who repeatedly ignores them is telling you very clearly that your needs matter less than their comfort, that your well-being comes second to what they want in the moment. If she keeps crossing your lines, dismissing your needs, making you feel guilty for having limits, that isn't love. That is disrespect at its core. And it leads directly to the final sign, the one that ties everything together, the one that reveals what's really been happening all along. Because every sign so far, the dismissal, the public humiliation, the cold tone, the exclusion, the boundary violations, all point to one unavoidable truth, and the sixth sign makes it impossible to look away. Sign 6, she doesn't defend you or stand up for you. Someone criticizes you, someone disrespects you, someone crosses a line, and she's right there. She hears it, she sees it, and she does nothing. Or worse, she joins in. Maybe it's her friends making jokes at your expense while she laughs along. Maybe it's her family disrespecting you while she stays silent. Maybe someone questions your character, your choices, your worth, and instead of standing with you, she agrees or brushes it aside like it doesn't matter. This is the most devastating sign of all, because when a woman respects you, she defends you, not aggressively, not dramatically, but clearly. She makes it known that you are not someone to be diminished in her presence. She doesn't allow others to tear you down. She doesn't tolerate disrespect toward you because you are her partner, someone worth protecting. But when respect is gone, she becomes a spectator to your humiliation, or worse, an accomplice. She allows others to disrespect you because she already has. And in those moments, when you look to her for support and find none, when you search her face for solidarity and see indifference, you realize something that cuts deep. She's no longer on your side. You can survive disagreements, you can work through conflict, You can navigate differences, but you cannot build a life with someone who won't defend you. You cannot trust someone who lets the world tear you down while she watches. You cannot feel safe with someone who no longer sees you as worth protecting. When a woman respects a man, she becomes his shield when the world turns against him. Not because he's weak, not because he needs saving, but because partnership means you don't stand alone. It means when the world doubts you, there is one person who doesn't. When the world questions you, there is one person who stands firm. When the world disrespects you, there is one person who will not tolerate it. And if she has stopped being that person, if she's joined the crowd that diminishes you instead of standing beside you, then respect isn't fading. It's already gone. You've seen the signs. Maybe not all of them, maybe just enough. Enough to know something fundamental has changed, and now you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to denial, to minimizing it, excusing it, hoping it fixes itself. The other leads to truth, to acknowledging what you feel and recognizing that you deserve respect, not just affection. Because love without respect isn't love. It's attachment, it's convenience, it's routine. And this part matters most. Respect cannot be begged for. It cannot be negotiated. It doesn't return just because you want it badly enough. Respect is either there or it isn't. And once it's gone, rebuilding it requires real change, deep accountability, and often distance or separation. You cannot earn respect by shrinking yourself. You cannot restore it by being nicer, quieter, more accommodating, or by proving your worth. Because the issue was never that you weren't enough. The issue is that she stopped seeing you clearly. And until she confronts why she lost respect, until she examines her own patterns and choices, nothing you do will change how she treats you. So what now? You stop ignoring the signs. You stop pretending everything is fine. You stop making yourself smaller for someone who no longer values you. You look at your relationship honestly, without hope blurring your vision or fear holding you in place, and you ask yourself one question, truthfully. Is this the treatment I'm willing to accept for the rest of my life? If the answer is no, then you already know what comes next. It won't be easy, but it will be real. And sometimes honesty is the only way back to yourself. If this hit home, if you felt that heavy recognition settle in your chest, type "I see it now" in the comments. Not for me, but for you. As a quiet commitment to stop pretending, to face the truth, to reclaim your self-respect, even if it costs you the relationship. Your journey doesn't end here. It continues. And what comes next is up to you.